Well, I'll begin with you, Alex, actually. I was wondering what it was that initially attracted you to getting involved in this project.
The offer. I'll be honest, it was just basically I was very lucky in that I knew the casting director because I'd done a previous film called Horrible Histories, the movie. So it was actually an offer of a part, which is rare and muchly great. I'm very grateful for it. So I didn't actually have to go through the punishments of the full audition process, which can take months, and you can be left hanging. So I didn't have to do that. So I was basically called up to say, would you like it? And I read the material, thought, yeah, this is great. It's a different part for me in terms of taking my sort of performances away from stuff I've done before. So that's really what made me want to do it. And also because it involved sort of fresh and new talent as well. It's always exciting to be involved with that emerging sort of aspect of the business, really. So yeah.
Yeah. Ollie was saying before, Oscar, that you guys have really created there's been real friendships that have been born out of this, particularly among the kind of younger members of the cast. That must be such a great thing to take away from this whole experience, not just the being the lead role in a movie like this, but to have loads of friendships to come with it.
Oh, definitely. I think that was, I can't speak for the rest of the guys, but I think that was something I was a bit apprehensive about, as to whether everyone was going to get on or not. And I remember the first day of rehearsal, all us lads kind of got together and we were all sat down getting to know each other. And just instantly, there was no feeling of like, oh, this person's not going to gel with this person. I think everyone just instantly, straight off the bat, got along with each other. And from there, it progressed into, friendship.
That's a crucial part of the system, really. If the key leads are not particularly gelling with each other, then it really makes for a pretty toxic 3-month work. Whereas if they're genuinely good friends, it's not a competition to outshine or whatever. It's just, let's make this really good. So it's great if that combination can be found. And that's often in the hands of the casting director. In this case, it was a guy called Colin Jones, who's very good at sort of getting those mixes together. And also the director. The director plays a crucial role in going, you're the right temperament for this. So it's not just, oh, are you a good actor? It's also, can I bear to spend 3 months with you, and will you create a nice environment for everyone to work with, to work in?
Yeah, I think that's something as audience members we always sort of take for granted, just how important it actually is to enjoy yourself doing this.
Especially for the key parts, because if you're a guest on it or a day player, that doesn't matter. If you're not a particularly easy individual, it doesn't really matter. But if the key cast don't like each other, that's torment. Luckily, I haven't really come across that. I think it's rare, but it does, and I'm sure it can happen. Yeah.
And Oscar, I was going to ask as well, because one of the things I found fascinating about the kind of story here was that kind of Lord of the Flies aspect of it, kind of seeing what we might be capable of in circumstances like this. Was that something that sort of attracted you to this part, that kind of hypothetical kind of contemplation of what would I be capable of if I was thrown into a situation like this?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I remember reading the script and thinking, like, this is something that I would have been sat daydreaming about myself at school. Like, yeah, it's such a cool. I think it's such a cool concept to like Lord of the Flies, to get a bunch of young people and kind of see how they figure out the way to do things in this new environment. And I think the way that it's written in Schools Out is brilliant.
Yeah, and Alex, I was going to ask as well if you, because obviously in this you play a kind of a nice teacher, sort of teacher I would have quite liked to have had at school. I just wondered if you've got any if there are any teachers from your time at school that you felt really inspired you, that you still think of from time to time.
Yeah, very much. There's one crucial one, I think, who was just such a nice, affable but eccentric, so kind but not stupid individual called Simon Potter. He was my English master, and he was very instrumental in making me think, yeah, I should pursue acting. If that's what I want to do, if that's what your heart, if that's what you would like to do, you should do it. And I think he was instrumental in that. And then there's a couple of others. One is a chap called Bill Chubb, who took us to the theatre basically when I was at sixth form once a week. And that was really my training in a way, just observing the National Theatre, the RSC, all of those, to actually be exposed to that on a weekly basis was instrumental in sort of stealing from actors' techniques, basically, and ways of working. So Bill Chubb and Simon Potter. Yeah.
I would ask you that, Oscar, but sometimes I think you need a few years of distance before you realise that they're actually human beings. Because when I was sort of your age, I still saw teachers as this kind of scary.
Totally. I still do, really. But, yeah.
But I was going to ask Oscar as well, just wondering about where this falls in the timeline of the kind of COVID, the pandemic we've lived through. Because obviously in this movie, there is a parallel to the kind of what we're going through at the moment. I just wondered had you all finished the shoot and everything before COVID was a thing, or were you able to draw on certain things?
Yeah, so we'd finished shooting, and we even did some reshoots as well. Before COVID happened. I think Alex mentioned earlier, we did end up doing some ADR during I don't know how you call it, the pandemic. And yeah, it was really strange to even working in, because that's not an environment where you have to have large amounts of people like a film set. But even something as seemingly small as getting someone into a studio and having a technician there and a director, it really affected the way that kind of all worked. And it was really eye-opening to see how much it affected something like that, as opposed to I don't understand how any film sets are working at the minute. It's just, it's insane.
Well, I'm on a film set at the moment, and the COVID protocols are vast. I mean, I get tested for COVID every 3 days, so the doctor has to I had one this morning, which was a very painful experience. It went right up and 6 times around. Not nice, but they're putting a huge amount of money into the COVID security of film and TV sets, because you have to manufacture them live and on location. So it's a very different environment. There's very little camaraderie. There's no après-ski, as it were, of being able to meet up afterwards for a drink. We can't mix. We have to be wearing our masks all the time. So it's a very different way of working on a set at the moment, definitely.
I was reading that when I think back when people started going back to work in our industry on like Corrie and soaps, people were encouraged to bring in their other half to do kind of as body doubles for like kissing scenes and stuff, because obviously being from the same house, so sort of partners coming in for a day's work. But Alex, I was going to ask, actually, as someone who is so prolific as yourself, with such a kind of fantastic range of credits in your career, how was this past year for you? Because you strike me as someone who just always seems busy, moving from one job to the next. So did you struggle to kind of adjust to what I would imagine was probably a sort of fair bit of time at home?
Yeah, it was at the beginning, it was a real terror of, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for them more? How am I going to pay anything? Because we don't necessarily get any support from the state side, just because we're self-employed, etc. So I was panicked at the beginning, but in fairness, as just after the summer, so September time, things began to restart. I think the government brought in an insurance scheme for production companies, so filming could restart. And as soon as you could see, it is possible, then the panic and the fear sort of did subside, and now there are shows shooting and things are moving. But it was very lonely at the beginning. I think this time the lockdown is technically more severe and more serious. But that first lockdown was such a surprise and such a different way of working, of living. That's what occupied my first 3 months. I think I was just the shell shock in a way of, good grief, we're locked down. It's so there was very little time to think, oh, I'm not working. Why aren't I working? I miss the film set. That was the last of my sort of thoughts, really.
And Oscar, I mean, obviously, well, you're incredibly young as it is, but you've been doing this since you were really young. Have you just known ever since you were like a kid that acting was just something you wanted to do? Because most people, I mean, it took me till I was about 27 before I realised what I wanted to do. But it seems like you've had a kind of sort of slight game plan from a much younger age.
I think I've been very lucky. I never was really into sports or any other kind of extracurricular stuff other than acting and drama. I remember the first kind of after school club that I went to religiously was the after school drama club at my primary school, And I think ever since then, I've just known that it's been a thing that I enjoy, and it kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And my final question, because I know I'm running out of time here, but I'm just going to ask you, Alex, quickly, because I did the Wink saga junket last week, and it's completely blown up. I mean, the hits on our interviews for that have gone mad, and there's so much attention on that show, which I just wondered how great it is to know when you kind of make something. It's like the most watched thing on Netflix at the moment. You've got kind of thousands and millions of people around the world kind of watching it. That must be so great when you make something and you know it's proving to be a real hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can claim to have no part to play in it, really. I'm in it, exactly. But it's bizarre in that there's no sense of that. I see and I'm aware that it's trending and it's very popular. But I think because we're all locked down, because we can't chat and see and mix, there's very little ability to actually feel the sense of something sort of exciting people or being popular. I sit here, there's a few people I see, etc., and that's really the extent of my understanding of its impact, really. So that is bizarre, or bizarre feeling, because you're right. I know technically it's a big old hit, but there's no palpable sort of sense of that, really. So, but it's exciting to be part of something that's trending.
Yeah, it's always good. Well, brilliant. Thanks so much for your time today, guys, and best of luck with the release of this movie. It's brilliantly dark, and I didn't sleep very well last night, which is a great testament, I think, to what you guys did. So,
ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey